All right, guys, welcome back. As you can tell by the title of this video, this is yet not another review. um, I'm gonna try to scrounge out. I'm gonna reach real deep inside my behind to get some content, and then on Friday I can get a new figure review out for you guys. Um, and like I said, we're probably gonna start doing a weekly upload schedule. I think that would be the easiest, and we can do stuff in between here and there. But I kind of wanted to get on here since I am I'm a new channel. I'm a disembodied voice. Nobody knows anything about me. I kind of wanted to tell you a bit about myself, but also go over my journey as an action figure collector, enthusiast, connoisseur, whatever you want to say. But a little bit about me. I'm definitely not 30 years old, so get that out of your head. I've been skateboarding for 20 years at this point, and let me tell you, it catches up to you. And I don't know how much longer I got in that game, but I am trying so hard. So I'm trying to skate as much as I possibly can. And I don't want to toot my own horn or anything, but I'm pretty good. I lived and breathed it for many years. It's just age is catching up with me. I'm having back issues. So that's lame. I also do a whole lot of art. I like to take photos. I can paint stuff. I'm sure you know I do a lot of painting on these guys, but I also do like stuff like music sometimes, or I try to at least. And then if you were wondering, my profile picture in the banner of the channel, I drew that. I've been doing digital art for a long time as well, so there's that. Some things I like doing. Obviously, I'm really into action figures, always have been, and I'm going to get into that in detail here. But I also am really into music and bands, and I follow a lot of movie news. Obviously, I'm a huge MCU fanboy, but I'm not a blind fanboy. I'll call out some stuff when I'm looking at you, Love and Thunder. But yeah, that's pretty much it as far as like what I'm into and my hobbies. I'm trying to think what's oversharing here. Yeah, I'm not gonna do a face reveal yet or anything, but that's just kind of an overview about what I'm about. I like to skate. I like to listen to music. I like to make art. I'm a pretty easygoing guy. So there's that. Now I want to get into the action figure side of it. Sorry if that wasn't a good amount of backstory, but anyway, I'm sure, as you know, you're probably watching this. You're probably a male. If you are a female watching this, that's awesome too. But I can only speak from the male perspective. Growing up as a little boy, I think there's something in us naturally, inside of us, inherently. We love action figures. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's you get to make people fight. I don't know. I have a child, and he doesn't, he just beats the crap out of the other figures. There's no storyline. Like me, when I was younger, I'd have a storyline going, and sometimes that would take weeks to complete. But he just seems to want to destroy the other figure when he's playing with him, which is cool. That's fine. I just think it's funny, but there's something in us that we've always liked action figures. Now, I'm going to go over some figures here. However, the ones that are going to be on screen are going to kind of be, stand-ins for what I'm trying to explain. So these don't really have much to do with anything, but there's something on screen, so you're not staring at this thing here or my phalanges. So I've always loved action figures, and even at a young age, I could always tell a good action figure from a bad action figure. I didn't know it at the time, but I was paying attention to stuff like scale, stuff like articulation, paint apps, the likeness to whatever they're trying to make into figure form. I just always knew, yeah, that's a good figure. And then there was other ones. Now, obviously, back then, I'm playing with them. I remember having probably like a normal 6-inch scale Spider-Man, and then there was a Green Goblin I had, but he was like this big. But I didn't care. I cared. It bugged me that he was smaller, which is probably why I'm a stiffer for scale nowadays. But I was just happy to have him back then. So I can't remember. I guess once I got out of like toddler toys, I got into action figures. The earliest action figures I remember having, and I don't know the specific line or what company made them, but they were really early Dragon Ball Z action figures. That was my first kind of go into action figures. I loved Dragon Ball Z as a kid. I loved the action figures. And I've came across, and this is the thing, I'm talking about some of these old figures I loved as a kid. I will come across them as an adult, and they almost never look as good as I remember. And it's kind of a letdown, but you gotta remember you got some rose-tinted nostalgia glasses going on, so that is what it is. But after that, I remember, maybe my memory's skewed, but I don't remember. Maybe I saw the X-Men animated series on TV here or there, but I don't think it clicked with me. It wasn't until Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 1. That's the first time I remember hearing of Spider-Man. That must have been like the first thing I watched or something. I don't know. But I fell in love with basically superheroes. And I never cared for DC. And I'm not one of those, oh, you gotta pick one, Marvel or DC. You can like both. Although we can both agree that the Snyderverse was trash. So, yeah, I just fell in love with Marvel. What's even weirder, though, is I never read comic books as a child. I don't think I ever read a single one. I didn't know where to find them. My mom never brought some home. It was just weird. So I was weird, and I read encyclopedias, whether it be Wikipedia or like a children's encyclopedia for Spider-Man or Hulk. I remember the entire time I was in elementary school, they made us go and get a library book. And you couldn't keep the one you had, so you had to switch it out. So I spent from, let's see, when did I move to that school? 2nd grade to 5th grade, just switching out Hulk encyclopedia with Spider-Man encyclopedia. And there was captions and pictures and so many different characters and character designs and versions of whatever character. And that's where I fell in love with stuff like Hulk 2099, Ultimate Iron Man, Spider-Man 2099, all the different iconic versions of Spider-Man, all the different classic villains. I know that's like the weirdest way, but that's just how I did it. So, and then of course, every time there was a live action movie, I'd watch it. So I quickly became enamored with Marvel. And I couldn't tell you the first Marvel action figure I ever had, but I do remember my dad was a garbage man, and occasionally he would come home with action figures. He'd bring them up, clean them off, and I don't know if I don't really talk to him much anymore. So I don't think he was into action figures, but maybe maybe he thought they were cool and gave them to me. But I remember he came home with one specific lot he had was an Ang Lee Hulk, which I still think the head sculpt on that thing is amazing. I've had it since then in the old collection. It doesn't scale well, and I have not been able to find an Ang Lee Hulk that scales well at all, so that's lame. But I remember having that and loving that. And then technically my first Marvel Legends ever, if you don't count Toy Biz Spider-Man 2 highly articulated movie figures, because I did have the Spider-Man 2, your basic highly articulated Spider-Man, and that was one of my favorites for sure. But there was something about this first proper Marvel Legends I had. It was that first Punisher. Now, it didn't come with the comic book. It didn't come with the base or the gun. It was just the character. And that remained my single most favorite action figure up until I lost it. My mom lost it in the move. So I can't believe how long I fell for that line. But yeah, it was a Marvel Legends Punisher. So technically, my first Marvel Legends that I had in my grasp was that Punisher. And I still think that's a decent figure. That's one of those ones I feel like still kind of holds up. I mean, not even close to something like this nowadays, but I did have it again in my recent collection, and I loved having it next to all the other recent Punishers. So, and then I remember getting there was a Spider-Man line, the Spider-Man Origins. I kept wanting to say Spider-Man Classics, but that was a different line. It was Spider-Man Origins, and I only ever had the Spider-Man 2099, which is probably why I'm so nostalgic for this guy, and Iron Spider-Man. And I loved those figures. So when I end up getting something like this, it's just kind of a full circle moment, you know, or designs that I fell in love with as a kid, like Ultimate Iron Man, even though the Ultimate Universe is not the greatest, but the design I loved. I've always been into character design. Like, I remember loving Banjo-Kazooie, never played it, still haven't played it. Maybe I played it on a Raspberry Pi emulator thing, but then it crashed in 3 minutes. So, but it didn't matter that I didn't play it. I just loved it because the character design. So, but that extends over into these more realistic, non-cartoonish superhero figures as well. And if there was a movie figure, I would go out and get it. I remember there was another Spider-Man line. I don't know what it was called. It was probably around or after Spider-Man 3, but it wasn't a Spider-Man 3 specific line, because I remember in this line, maybe this will help somebody let me know in the comments. The Spider-Man that was on the side of the package up front, that was a sticker, I'm pretty sure. But it had movie Sandman, it had movie Doc Ock, and it had movie Green Goblin. The problem is that line was, like I said, I had that smaller Green Goblin. That was that line. I can't remember what that line was called. But I didn't really care much at the time. I just really wanted those characters. And I remember just loving that I had them. So I'm not going to do any justice explaining this, but I had a Venom figure that I also really loved when I was little. And I, for the life of me, cannot find it on the internet. I don't know how to explain it other than I think maybe his arms move, but they were kind of in this position. They'd probably go up or down. I don't know if there was head articulation. I don't know if there was any articulation here, but I do know his legs had a hinge, pegs. And I know that because I remember his leg breaking off, and I put all the parts in a bag, and he just lived in a bag for many years. And with every day that goes by, and each new Venom figure, it gets harder and harder to find this specific figure. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how to find it. I've searched everything, and for whatever reason, I can't find it. And I know I would remember it if I came across it. So I don't know. That probably didn't help anybody because it hasn't been helping me. But I remember having something like that. And then, let's see what happened. I remember getting to a point. Oh, and then Transformers the movie came out. Never cared about Transformers before that, but that movie blew my mind. I had to have those movie figures. And in the build-up to that, my stepdad had given me his OG vintage Transformer collection. And his Star Wars collection, which, in hindsight, I remember having the original Rancor. And, of course, I don't know where any of it went. So maybe he took it back and sold it. I don't blame him. But I remember going through that huge phase to the point where in my old collection, I did have Studio Series, trying to capture some of that childhood magic, but I never felt good about having them. I was like, I don't need these, but I kept buying them, yada, yada, yada. And then I discovered teenager and puberty and skateboarding, and, you know, I just became a punk. So I was too cool for these. So I spent most of that time up until 21. How old would I have been? I was in 8th grade when I started skateboarding. And then I don't know what year that was, but from 8th grade, whatever year that was, all the way up until probably 21-ish. And then I got my first apartment. And mind you, during all that time though, I would still, every time, if I went to the store for whatever reason, groceries or to mess around, because whatever reason, when you're a teenager, it's fun to just go see how long it takes to get kicked out of Walmart. But I would still go down the action figure aisle, and I would just look, and I would appreciate them, you know, and then I would remember back at some of my older figures. You know, I remember having some of the early 2000s Fantastic Four action figures. I remember having a Human Torch. just cool stuff. And then, you know, there was earlier versions of something like this, which was during the time of, you know, you'd buy something Marvel back then, whether it's a game or a movie, it would come with a pamphlet because they make a lot of money off their toys. So there'd be a toy pamphlet showing off the Legends line from Toy Biz. And I just remember so many iconic pictures that I wanted so much. I don't ever remember seeing them in stores, though. Maybe I'm crazy, at least when I was little. But yeah, like something like Beast here, Astonishing Beast. This was the Beast. Well, I didn't read it. That was the design that was relevant at the time. So that's what's plastered everywhere. So just seeing stuff like that was so cool to me. And then at one point, so in the MCU, Guardians of the Galaxy and Winter Soldier had just came out. Now, Phase 1 was awesome. The Avengers was awesome. But then you had this weird little funk with the Dark World and Iron Man 3. And you're kind of like, well, are we going to capture that magic again? I don't know where this is going. It's the early days. And then Guardians of the Galaxy and the Russo brothers came in hot and heavy with Winter Soldier. And from that point forward, all pistons were firing all the way to Endgame. So my love for the MCU was already, like, I, to this day, have not missed a single Thursday night premiere. Because I don't know, not a lot of people know this, but whenever it says it comes out Friday, yada, 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 they actually have a few extra showings the Thursday night prior. And I have not missed a single one. And on Disney Plus, they used to do it at like 3 in the morning when they drop an episode. I would stay up till 3 in the morning every single time to catch the premiere of an episode. So I'm definitely a diehard fan. But like I said, you know, Civil War was going hot and strong. Doctor Strange, Guardians of the Galaxy, it was going crazy. And I would come across these movie figures. And I remember buying a couple. I had and Homecoming was still going too. I had the MCU Falcon, would have been Civil War at the time. So Civil War Falcon, Civil War Bucky. I had that first movie, Doctor Strange, which looks horrible. And I had would have been Volume 2 Star-Lord. And I may have had another one, I'm not sure. But that was the start of my next little collection. However, at the time, I had no business having an apartment. I had no business doing anything remotely responsible. So not only did I technically not have money to buy those things, they weren't even stood up. I just put them on my window shelf like this, just laying down. And back then, I don't smoke cigarettes anymore, but back then I was an absolute fiend. And if I didn't have money for cigarettes, I would sell something. And those things I ended up selling eventually for some disgusting cigarettes. So there's that. And then many years passed from like 2017 all the way to 2020. I was moving around up and down in Memphis, Tennessee, dealing with a girl. Well, technically dealing with myself, but that's besides the point. And then I came back here, and then I don't know if it was, I think it was a mixture of COVID, just, you know, that era of time. But also, I remember the figure that I scrolled past on Instagram. And I don't even know why this popped up, because there was nothing in my algorithm remotely close to anything action figure related, but I just happened to come across it. And you'll never guess which figure made me want to start collecting these. It was not the first issue, the one that looks off with no helmet. It was the second one from the 2-pack for the Black Widow movie, and it was Red Guardian. Now, this is the Thunderbolts one, so this isn't the specific one. But funny thing about him we'll get to in a bit. Something about that first, well, technically second Red Guardian, it may have been that's the first time I witnessed the face scanning technology that are now put into these. Because before, the last time I saw these things, at least the movie ones, how they looked, it was go back and look at that original Doctor Strange movie figure. Or go back and look at that Bucky. It was close, but it was not to the, we are in the golden age of action figures now. So going from those 2016, 17-ish ones, not looking at them until I saw that newer Red Guardian, that's when the facial technology stuff hit me. I was like, holy shit. Is this where we are now? Because I was just blown away. And so, sorry. Something told me to get it. And then I moved back to Memphis because I'm an idiot. And I remember I just woke up one morning and I was like, okay, I definitely need to get one of these. And technically, I don't know the date, but the first one I ever purchased was on eBay, and it was the first 10 years Age of Ultron. And I was like, okay, we're doing this. However, I am a greedy little bastard and I hate waiting. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to the store and see what's available. So I don't remember where I went. Must have been Target, because I remember one of these was a Target exclusive. But the movie that was about to come out, because I didn't know any of these characters, so the movie definitely had not come out yet, but it was Shang-Chi. And I wasn't super impressed with the selection, but I did know I wanted all the movie stuff. And I'm like, I'm sure after the movie I will appreciate these a little bit more, which I did. But I'm looking at them, I'm like, Xialing, I don't know, I don't care. Who the hell is Katie? And then that left me with Shang-Chi, Wenwu, or Death Dealer. And I went with Death Dealer because he just looked the most visually appealing. And so technically the first one that made it on my shelf, even though it was the second one I bought, was Death Dealer from Shang-Chi. And then it just grew and grew and grew, and I've been to so many places since then. I remember going all the way out of state just to buy a Miles Morales figure. You know, I've just the amount of money that old collection had put into it and how much it grew and grew and grew. It's just crazy on the journey it led me. And then I had a mental breakdown. I crashed out over a girl, and I don't know if it was, I'm sure it was that, but also just being surrounded by so much. I think it was dawning on me how, like, these aren't doing anything for my life other than holding me back financially, because I was not being good with money. And it was just getting to me. Like, I don't know the final count, but it was over. I mean, I think it was hitting the thousands. And like I said, there was Outside Lines, NECA, Jada Toys, Transformers, you know, and then backtracking the Legends line, as well as keeping up with everything they were putting out. It just got to me. And unfortunately, I sold it all, and I do regret it. However, part of me is kind of okay with it now, because I'm not repainting these to the extent that I was, and now I can not feel bad moving them around. I'm just doing little touch-ups here and there, so I do prefer that. There is only one figure that survived, and that was my Selfie series that I was not impressed with whatsoever, but that one's technically survived into the new universe. So yeah, I sold them off, and then I wasn't having seller's regret. But then I was like, you know what? I saw this guy. Again, I told you this guy would come back. I saw this guy. And I'm like, ugh, Red Guardian, you steal my heart again. And I remember going out. I got this 2-pack. I got the other Thunderbolts 2-pack. I got Spider-Man 77 and that whole X-Men 97 line with the one with Cable in it. And I had all those, and I'm like, okay, let's just start again. Well, I may have not had seller's remorse at the time, but buyer's remorse was setting in real fast with this new batch of figures. So I don't even think those ones lasted 2 weeks. And I sold them. So technically, if you're counting like modern day collections, this is technically my third, fourth, you know, however you want to look at it. But, and then, you know, this guy was still taunting me, by the way. I was still like, I still kind of want that guy. What the hell? And then what really did it, though, he had a little help with a couple friends. It was Born Again Punisher and Born Again Daredevil. And that's what drew me in. So, and then I was like, okay, I'm only sticking, like my rule before was I'm only doing live action MCU. And then What If came around, X-Men 97 came around, and then I was getting the other animated shows, and I was fudging comic book figures in, and then it just blew up. And so with this collection, I'm like, okay, only doing live action MCU. Well, as you can see here, I got comic books, I got Gamerverse, you know, it's like I got animated stuff. So I'm like, we have to have something in place here. What are my rules? And the rule I've settled upon, at least, here's hoping I get monetized at some point so this can fund the channel and vice versa. The channel funds this, yada, yada, yada. But as of right now, before I was unable to pick up one I didn't have and put it back. I would buy it even if it was a detriment to my bank account. Nowadays, I've put plenty back, like the a new comic book, Rachel Summers. I picked that up, and I'm like, and I put it back because, all these characters you see here, I have a connection to them, specifically MCU. I'll get every single MCU without hesitation. But do I need Rachel Summers, a character that I know very little about and have never really came across in my life? No, I don't need that. So this is where I'm at. I'm kind of just sticking to definitely the live action stuff. There is a cutoff point I have for Marvel Legends. If you hit a certain year in the past, I won't go past that, with a couple exceptions, because they're, like I said, we're in the golden age now, especially with facial technology. However, there are some live action Toy Biz that still hold up. Not articulation department at all, but the paint apps. Paint apps were awesome in the Toy Biz days. There was a certain grime to it, I will say. I hope that makes sense. But figures that stand out live action are X-Men Colossus, X3 Colossus, X3 Beast, Wesley Snipes Blade, and even those original early 2000s Fantastic Four movie figures look phenomenal too. So not all of them are horrible. There's no... I was about to say there's no comic book figure I'd go back and get, but that's a damn lie, because one of my most holy grail figures, I don't even know what line it was, but it was Spider-Hulk. It was Hulk in a Spider-Man costume. It was getting ripped up. I still to this day want that thing. Super expensive, but mainly if there's some decent looking live action Toy Biz Marvel Legends, I will go ahead and get them, like the Thomas Jane Punisher for sure, just stuff like that. But that's where I'm at now. So hopefully this one wasn't too boring for you guys. Like I said, I've reached elbow deep inside myself to pull this out of me. We'll see what the next few days bring. I'm just trying to make it till Friday. Like I said, I'm about to get a place, so I'm a little financially strapped right now. So I would love to, buy a figure for every day of the next 2 weeks and just do daily uploads for the rest of my life. But I'm not there yet. So I'm just working with what I have access to. And I don't want to do lazy content by any means. Like, I figured this would be somewhat informative. And plus, I'll listen to stuff like Carbon Scoring. Just people talk about their experience throughout life with toys, Tales from the Tub with Robo, stuff like that. So hopefully you found this somewhat interesting. Maybe it opens some memories of yours. Maybe there was a figure you really loved when you were little, never got to it, like the Ultimate Riders Marvel Legends, that the Hulkbuster. I remember loving that thing. I would take those little booklets of the toys to school just to look at them. So it's always cool though when like I had the Toy Biz Ultimate Iron Man in my old collection. They were standing side by side to this new one. So it's always awesome to me when Legends proper, especially nowadays since they look so good, come out and blow that old one out of the water. Whether it be Beast, Ultimate Iron Man, Punisher, Spider-Man 2099. If there's a figure I had when I was little of a certain character and they redo it nowadays, it's almost always better, and I just love it. And I love these things. I love the hobby. I love the art to it. You have to sculpt it, get to paint it, get the likeness of the person. And then, depending on the sculpt, how can you creatively make that a moving figure, and then how good can you make that all come together and look? And I just love it, And if you're into toys, specifically Marvel Legends or whatever action figure line, and you're an older person, I've learned to not give a shit if people think this is weird. At the moment, I live in my grandma's basement, surrounded by these things. And I know, Keep your panties on, I know, but I've never had somebody new come over and be like, that's lame. But if they did, I find these to be a really good way to weasel people out, you know? Because if somebody's shallow enough to like look at this thing that brings you joy and judge you for that, even though they're probably doing way worse brain rot stuff on their own time, who needs them, you know? It's a good way to weed people out, I think. So if you also live in your grandmother's basement, which again is not the case for long, but if you live in your grandma's basement surrounded by thousands of action figures, and you're bringing a girlfriend over or something for the first time, and she thinks it's cool, keep that one, because that one cares about you. She's mature enough to realize that these bring you joy. You know what I mean? And I've never really ran into anybody that was like that judgmental. Like no one ever was like, no, that's lame, see ya. So, but even, like I said, even if they did, hit them with the see ya back, you know? So anyway, maybe I'm rambling at this point. So that's my journey, a little bit about myself. Let me know in the comments, like, what was your dream Holy Grail figure when you were younger? Did you ever get it? Do you still want it? And upon looking at it in person as an adult, did you realize that nostalgia was kind of blinding your brain with how you remember it looking and how cool you thought it was? Let me know. Let me know your story in the comments. Anything. And I mean anything, because I need some engagement. But I'm not expecting anything, you know. But that's probably going to do it, guys. Thank you so much. I think I'm about to hit 30 subscribers now. Got a couple extra in a day than it's kind of been one a day. I think I got like 3 more today though. So we're close. We're gonna get there soon. 50 is my next goal post. So and let me know in the comments, constructive criticism. Do you want me to find a new backdrop? Do you want me to, I'm definitely gonna invest in a camera rig. Anything I can do to help this in your viewing experience. So, but anyway, ramble, rada. Thank you guys so much for clicking. Thank you guys so much for subscribing. And if you're new here, click subscribe, comment, share, like, hit the notification bell, whatever you feel like is appropriate. And I will forever be grateful, even if there's 23 right now. I appreciate you guys so much. So I don't know what the next video is going to be, so I'm going to try to get creative with it and think of something. But until then, I will see you guys on the next one. Peace out.